All right, folks, gather round. Today, we're diving into a topic that's making headlines and hitting wallets around the world. Let's talk about tariff wars. Imagine a playground spat, but instead of kids throwing sand, it's countries throwing taxes on each other's goods. Not as fun, right? But the stakes are much higher, and the consequences ripple through economies, businesses, and even your shopping list. Basically, a tariff is like a border tax on imports. When a country wants to make foreign goods more expensive, it slaps on a tariff, hoping people will buy more local products instead. In a tariff war, countries go back and forth, slapping these taxes on each other's products. It's like a really expensive game of ping pong, but nobody wins. Instead, everyone ends up paying more, and tensions keep rising. In this case, the US, the EU, China, and South Korea are all tangled up in a web of tariffs and counter-tariffs, each trying to protect their own industries and interests. The US started slapping tariffs on beauty products, yes, including your precious perfumes, from these countries. Suddenly, that bottle of fragrance on the shelf is caught in a global tug-of-war. Why? Well, the reasons are about as clear as a bottle of discount cologne. Officially, it's to protect domestic industries. But in reality, it's a messy situation with complex economic and political factors. Sometimes it's about leverage in trade negotiations or responding to what one country sees as unfair practices by another. So, what does this mean for you, the perfume enthusiast? Well, buckle up, because things are about to get pricey. Those extra taxes get passed down the line, and you might notice your favorite scents costing a lot more than before. The US hit South Korea with a 25% tariff, making imports from there significantly more expensive. France and China with 10%, which still adds a noticeable bump to the price tag. And Taiwan with a whopping 32%. That's almost a third of the price added just in tariffs. These tariffs aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They directly impact the cost of making and selling your favorite perfumes. From the factory floor to the shop shelf, everyone feels the squeeze. And in the end, it's the consumer who pays the price. Think of your favorite perfume. That alluring scent doesn't magically appear in a bottle. It's a complex cocktail of ingredients, packaging, and labor. And guess what? Tariffs drive up the cost of all three. Let's break it down. Those fancy essential oils from France? Bam! 10% more expensive thanks to tariffs. Packaging materials from China? Wham! Another 10% tacked on. It's like playing a never-ending game of price hike whack-a-mole. And it's not just the direct costs. Imagine you're a perfume brand trying to navigate this tariff mess. You've got lawyers to pay, paperwork to file, and let's not forget the endless headaches trying to figure out how much this whole thing is going to cost. All these added expenses, they get passed down to you, the consumer, in the form of higher perfume prices. It's enough to make you want to douse yourself in discount deodorant and call it a day. But don't despair just yet, there's more to uncover. We've talked about the direct costs of tariffs on perfume ingredients and packaging, but what about the less obvious expenses? Buckle up, because this is where things get really complicated. Remember those lawyers and paperwork we mentioned earlier? Turns out dealing with new trade regulations and tariffs is about as fun as filing your taxes while blindfolded. Companies have to hire experts to navigate the ever-changing landscape of international trade, which adds up quickly. And then there's the issue of uncertainty. When tariffs are volatile and unpredictable, businesses hesitate to invest in new products, research, or expansion. This stifles innovation and can ultimately lead to fewer choices for consumers. But wait, there's more. The increased costs and regulatory hurdles can also discourage new perfume brands from entering the market. So not only are your favorite perfumes getting more expensive, but you might also be missing out on the next great scent because a budding entrepreneur couldn't afford to launch their brand in this tariff-ridden environment. Okay, enough with the abstract concepts. Let's talk about real brands feeling the burn of this tariff war. Take the Lip Bar, a company known for its inclusive beauty products. They source 85% of their products from Taiwan, which means they're staring down the barrel of that massive 32% tariff. Ouch! Then there's Krave Beauty, a beloved K-beauty brand. They're grappling with the 25% tariff on goods from South Korea. These tariffs have forced them to make tough choices, like raising prices or finding alternative ingredient sources, both of which can impact their bottom line and customer loyalty. These are just two examples, but countless other perfume and beauty brands are facing similar challenges. many are small businesses and startups already operating on thin margins. These tariffs can be the difference between success and shutting down shop. It's a stark reminder that these trade wars have real-world consequences for businesses and consumers alike. And trust us, folks, it's not pretty. So, we know tariffs make perfumes more expensive, but did you know they can also change the way they smell? It's not just about the price tag. Tariffs can have a ripple effect that reaches all the way into the bottle itself, altering the very essence of your favorite scent. It's true. When those precious essential oils and fragrance ingredients become more expensive, brands are forced to get creative. Suddenly, the cost of jasmine from India or rose oil from Bulgaria skyrockets, and perfume houses have to make tough decisions to keep their products on the shelves. Some might switch to cheaper, synthetic alternatives. These lab-made ingredients can mimic the scent of naturals, but they're often less costly and more stable, making them an attractive option for brands under financial pressure. Now, synthetic doesn't always mean bad. In fact, some of the world's most iconic perfumes rely on synthetics for their signature notes. But there's a delicate balance between artistry and affordability. But in some cases, it can lead to perfumes that smell less complex, less nuanced, and frankly, less like their original formulations. The magic of a beloved scent can be lost when corners are cut. Other brands might try to reformulate their perfumes altogether, using different ingredients to achieve a similar scent profile. This process is like solving a puzzle with missing pieces. But this is tricky business. Even the most skilled perfumers can struggle to recreate the magic of the original blend. It takes time, research, and a whole lot of trial and error. Months can go by as teams test, tweak, and retest, hoping to get as close as possible to the original scent. And there's no guarantee that the new formulation will smell as good as the original. Sometimes loyal customers notice the difference right away. In some cases, ingredient regulations, rather than just cost, might force a change. Governments can ban or restrict certain ingredients, making reformulation unavoidable. Remember that whole Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act thing? That's just one example of how new rules can shake up the industry. Yeah, that's adding more fuel to the fire. Between tariffs and regulations, the challenges keep piling up for perfume makers. The point is, your favorite perfume might not smell quite the same in a world of tariffs and changing regulations. The scent you love could be subtly or dramatically different. And that, my friends, is a real tragedy for fragrance lovers everywhere. This tariff war isn't just about money and fancy scents, it's about people's livelihoods. In Europe, where the perfume industry is a significant employer, there are concerns about job losses. Higher production costs and decreased competitiveness could force companies to downsize, leaving workers out in the cold. And before you start chanting "bring back the jobs," remember that tariffs are unlikely to magically revive the perfume manufacturing industry in the United States. It's a lot more complicated than that. Setting up domestic manufacturing for specialized products like perfumes is expensive and time-consuming. In fact, some companies might resort to automation to cut costs in this new tariff-heavy world, which could lead to even more job losses in the long run. It's a lose-lose situation for workers on both sides of the Atlantic. Okay, let's talk about you, the consumer, caught in this fragrant fiasco. What does this all mean for your perfume-loving self? Simply put, higher prices and fewer choices. Remember those price hikes we talked about? Yeah, those are very real. That niche perfume you love, it might be significantly more expensive now thanks to tariffs on ingredients, packaging, and all those hidden costs. And, with smaller brands struggling to survive in this environment, you might see fewer options on the shelves. That unique artisanal perfume you were eyeing, it might disappear altogether if the brand couldn't weather the tariff storm. So not only are you paying more for your favorite scents, but you might also have to settle for less variety and possibly even compromise on quality. It's enough to make you want to stick to unscented soap and call it a day. While big perfume conglomerates might have the resources to weather the tariff storm, though not without some grumbling and price hikes, smaller brands and startups are in a much more precarious position. Imagine you're a small perfume brand trying to get your foot in the door. You're already facing an uphill battle against established names and tight margins. Now throw in sky-high tariffs, unpredictable trade policies, and wary investors, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Investors are hesitant to pour money into businesses facing such uncertain futures. This makes it incredibly difficult for startups to secure funding, expand their operations, or even just keep the lights on. The result? Fewer innovative new perfumes, less competition in the market, and ultimately fewer choices for you, the consumer. So, what does the future hold for the perfume industry in this turbulent trade environment? As global markets shift and new policies are introduced, the landscape for fragrance makers is changing faster than ever before. Well, it's about as clear as a bottle of expired perfume. The uncertainty is thick, and even industry veterans are struggling to predict what comes next. The Value of Beauty Trade Group, along with industry publications like BOF, Fortune, and Glossy, are all sounding the alarm about the negative impacts of tariffs. They warn that these changes could ripple through every part of the supply chain, from sourcing rare ingredients to getting finished bottles onto store shelves. One thing's for sure, the perfume industry is in for a bumpy ride. Rising prices, potential quality compromises, and shifting consumer expectations are all on the horizon. And a shrinking pool of brands are all real possibilities. Smaller brands may struggle to survive, while even established names could be forced to make tough choices. Will these tariffs lead to a resurgence in domestic perfume manufacturing? Some hope that local artisans and indie brands might fill the gap, but the challenges are significant. Unlikely, at least in the short term. Building up local infrastructure and expertise takes time, investment, and a lot of patience. Will they force a wave of innovation as brands scramble to find alternative ingredients and production methods? Perhaps. Necessity often sparks creativity, and we may see new scents and sustainable practices emerge as a result. The only certainty is uncertainty. The industry stands at a crossroads, with many possible paths ahead and no clear map to follow. One thing's for sure, the next time you spritz on your favorite perfume, remember that its journey to your hands is more complicated than ever. Take a moment to appreciate the complex web of trade, economics, and artistry that went into creating it. Every bottle tells a story of global collaboration, innovation, and resilience. Because in this era of tariff wars, every spritz is a reminder of the challenges and triumphs behind the scenes. Who knows what the future holds for the scents we love? The only thing we can do is wait, watch, and savor every note while we can.